we are probably the only organization in the country that we never want to have new members, because that means that someone else has made a great sacrifice.
All right, good morning. We will get started here. It's exciting to have Cindy Tatum with us today. A few years back, at one of my previous companies, we had brought in a group. The Gold Star Mothers had come in and they'd set up a big presentation, and it really ended up very moving and really resonated with people. Just the work that the group was doing to honor families and to honor those who had sacrificed. And it was one of those things that I continued to hear about for several years, that it was just a really meaningful event. And so I've been since then really intrigued by the work of Gold Star Mothers and the history, which goes back to World War I, of this whole notion of neighbors helping neighbors when they'd see those stars hanging in the window. And so I'm excited to have Cindy tell us a little bit of that story. Maybe tell us some of the history of the Gold Star that a lot of folks don't know, and what brought about the start of the Gold Star Mothers, and then what inspired you and brought you to that work, Cindy.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Well, first, thank you for even asking me to take part in this discussion this morning, Randall. Obviously, one of the focus areas that we have as a national organization is to just bring really education to people in various parts of the country, such as yourselves, who may not be aware of what the Gold Star means. And so, in Tennessee, as I'm sure also probably in whichever state that you are in, the Gold Star families have the opportunity, to have a specialized tag that is placed on our vehicle. Each of the states are very, very different in the design of those tags. But I've pulled up places before and had people say to me, "Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful tag. I wonder how I can get one." Um, and at that point, usually, I try to let them know that it's not a tag that they really wish to have, because it does mean that there has been a supreme sacrifice on the part of those family members who the state will authorize to own one of those gold stars license plates. And the same thing goes. We have lapel pins that are issued to us following the death of our loved one. And many times, if I'm someplace and I have the pin on, I'll have somebody come up to me and say, "Well, that's a beautiful pin. How can I get one?" And so part of our focus is really to educate people across the country to understand what that star means. It's certainly, we are probably the only organization in the country that we never want to have new members, because that means that someone else has made a great sacrifice. And so our organization was started back in 1928. There was a woman who lived in the DC area. Her name was Grace Darling Seibold. And Grace, during World War I, started going to the military hospitals that were located in the DC area, and she started to volunteer. She started going in and assisting them with the care of some of those soldiers who had been returned from the United States in order to receive medical treatment. And so, anyway, um, she continued to go. In 1917, Grace's son, George Vaughn Seibold, um, uh, came home and said, "Hey, Mom, guess what? I have decided that I would like to support this battle effort." And so George's kind of dream was to be in the Air Corps. And so George went for training up in Canada. And then later, because we, of course, in the United States during that time period, didn't really have an Air Corps. And so he was assigned to the British Air Corps. And he was a very diligent son in that he wrote to his mother and would write to his wife very frequently. And in 2018, the letters stopped coming. And, this is nowadays, um, I can tell you that when my son died in 2007, the news media already knew that my child had died. And so it was very different then. And so Grace took that kind of a focus that she had for volunteering at the military hospitals and decided that she would make it a twofold mission. That when she was in those hospitals volunteering, she would also be looking for her son George to see if maybe he had been injured to the extent that upon his return to the United States, that maybe there was no identification. And so much later in 2018, the stories differ a little bit in terms of when the family actually did receive formal notification. But we do know that in October of 2018, George's wife received a box. And on that box, it said the effects of, George Vaughn Seibold. And so at that point, of course, his wife contacted Grace and her husband and let them know that she had received this box of his effects, his personal effects. And so, anyway, Grace decided that she could either let the grief of losing her child in military service consume the rest of her life, or she could take that volunteering that she had been doing, um, and she could kind of up it a little bit, if you would. And so, what she found as she would continue that service at the military hospitals was she began to find other moms who were there who were also serving, other moms who had also lost their children that that found kind of a peace of mind, if you will, and some healing, and realizing that you can either become consumed in this grief or you can decide that you're going to do something to honor your fallen child. And so she and 25 moms in 1928 decided that they were going to formally create the American Gold Star Mothers Incorporated. And that's what they did. And that's kind of the history in a nutshell of our organization. During World War II, We had as many as 20,000 members. And so they were, some of them World War One members, some of them were World War Two moms. And so we have seen over time, thank God, our membership go from those very, very large numbers to numbers that right now we currently have approximately 1,100 members across the United States. And there are chapters, which are your local, kind of your local structure. And then we have departments. And some of our departments are actually two states. So, for example, in Kansas, Kansas has their own department. If you are in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania has their own department. Tennessee has their own, but there are some states that are very, very small in numbers, and those states join with other states and combine their membership. One of the things that is very important to our organization is to continue that mission of service that Grace started. And so today, we have many, many members who serve as VA representatives in their local VA hospitals. Um, and they go in weekly and volunteer their time there. We have other moms who may not live as close to a VA hospital, but they live close to a VA nursing facility or nursing home. And they will volunteer service hours at that VA home. We also do a lot of work with the active duty military soldiers and their families, and veterans and their families. Um, I know, for example, with our chapter that I am a part of here in the state of Tennessee, just in case those of you that were sitting there saying, where in the heck is that gal from? Because she sounds like she's from somewhere, but it ain't here. I am a resident of the state of Tennessee, proudly, and our local chapter here has been able to do a lot of things because we have been able to partner with some local businesses that are in this area of West Tennessee. And that is really something that is has allowed us to do a lot more in terms of the service component. And so we, for example, our chapter, we have paid rent for National Guard troops who are on the verge of being evicted from their home. We have paid the same for active duty military who are on the verge of being evicted. We have paid electric bills. We bought a set of tires for a veteran who his wife worked part time. They had 3 children. She worked part time in a nursing home, and so one of their cars ran very well and had good tires, and so he insisted that his wife drive that car back and forth to work. His old truck, he had been notified of a job. The only problem was then he didn't have a vehicle that he could drive back and forth to work. And so we told him no problem. So we put a set of tires on his truck so that he could then go back and forth to work. So those are some of the things that we do locally, that that we are much faster than the VA. If we hear of a veteran, and we have many organizations that work with us that can come to us directly and they can say, Cindy, we've got a veteran that, they turned off their power. They have 3 kids in the house. What can you do? Well, we can get you a check tomorrow. We'll have it in the mail, or we'll have somebody carry it to the power company and get your, you know, that's what we can do, and we can do it a lot faster than if you're still trying to get through the VA process and some of the resources that you might have available to you through the VA. And so those are some of the things that we do, like I said, at the local level and at the department level. At the national level, of course, the service hours that are turned in to our national organization, then we actually, as a group, are considered to be one of their veterans service organizations because we are actually number 001. We are the first Gold Star organization in the country, and we were the first ones to be assigned a number at the VA as an organization that did service at the local VA hospitals and medical centers. And so we also do some work. Our headquarters, our national headquarters, is in Washington, D.C. Back in the 50s, what had been the parsonage for one of the local priests came up for sale. And so a couple of our members who really had a lot of good insight said, well, maybe we need to buy that and stop hauling all these records around. And I can only envision 22,000 records from World War II membership, and these ladies having to try to store these and then make sure that those records were where they were when they met. And so they purchased this old brownstone. At that time, the price was $25,000. And it sits on Old Embassy Road. And that district of DC, if you're familiar, we are not up there in the real expensive district. Although that property today is probably worth about $2 million. And so many times, because our National Executive Board, we hold in-person board meetings 3 times a year. In September for Gold Star Mother Sunday weekend, in February, and then at our national convention. And so that headquarters allows us to keep our records and things like that in one place. Now, this year and for the last 2 years, we have been working with a company in Virginia Beach that has been going through, and they have been digitizing the letters for application for our organization. I've told people many times, when I was there in September, we have to create a manifest in order for them to digitize these records. And I was telling other members of the board who were in there also working on this manifest, I said, I can't help but think that if they did DNA testing on each of these applications, that they would find the tears of every mother who filled one in. And so we, as an organization, realize the value of those items historically to the nation as a whole. And so that is one of our kind of ongoing projects as we receive funding to do that. The Library of Congress has agreed to take those and store them. Back in 1943, the organization made a deal, I guess is what you call it, with the Library of Congress, that the World War One applications would be stored there. And so those have been stored at the Library of Congress since that time. And our hope is that before there's too much more physical decay of these national treasures, um, that we can get them to the Library of Congress. The young man in the picture behind me is my son Daniel. Daniel was in the Marine Corps. Daniel served 2 tours in Iraq. He came home in October of 2007, called me when he hit the tarmac there at Camp Pendleton, which is where he was stationed, and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm stateside." And of course, you know, the mama says, "Okay, so are you coming home? Are you coming home? Are you coming home? Or what?" And I said, "You know, Dad and I could come out there to see you if that's what you wanted us to do, you know, and just let us know." He said, "Oh, why don't you come out here?" And so his dad and I decided that we would go out to California to Camp Pendleton to see him. And probably when I think about it now, it was one of the best things that his father and I did. Um, God is good because he directs us sometimes when we need to have direction, and that is time that I believe he really directed my husband and I. And we went out and spent a week with him, did whatever he wanted to do. And to tell you just briefly what a great guy he was, we had told him, he said, now listen, Dan, whatever you want to do on Saturday, let us know, and we will make that happen. He picked up his cell phone and he called his good buddy, Buckland, on the phone, and he said, "Buckland, put Shelby on the phone." Shelby was 3. Daniel was known to Shelby as Bubby, you know. So anyway, Daniel got on the phone with Shelby and he said, "Shelby, this is Bubby." He said, "My mom and dad are here, you know, and they want to know what we want to do on Saturday. And tell your daddy not to worry about it because my mama and daddy will pay for all of it." You know, so immediately she says, SeaWorld, SeaWorld, you know, so off we all go to SeaWorld. But I wouldn't give $1 million for those memories. On December the 24th, 2007, Daniel, we had spoken to him that morning. He told me, he said, "Mom, I need to know how to make green bean casserole because we're all cooking tomorrow." And I said, "Don't you think that's a pretty, you know, that's a pretty daunting task to fix, you know, Christmas dinner for all these Marines?" He said, "Oh, Mom, don't worry about it." He said, "It'll all be good." And so they'd gone out to do some shopping. One of his Marine Corps buddies was driving. He pulled out in front of the commuter train that runs north and south in Oceanside, California, and it killed my son on impact. So our knock on the door came on Christmas morning of 2007. And when we had just finished opening Christmas gifts, and we were sitting in the front room, kind of which looks out onto the road that we live in. We live in the country, and I saw this red van pull by, and my oldest son, who had also spent 13 months in Iraq, looked at his dad, and he looked at me, and the van turned around, and the van pulled up in the driveway, and all I could see through the window was these Marine Corps uniforms. And I looked at Andy, my husband, and I said, "Andy, Daniel has figured out a way to come home for Christmas. That rat didn't tell me that he was coming home." And my oldest son grabbed me by the arm and looked at his dad, and he said, "Dad, Well, by that time, of course, I've jerked out of his arm. I've run around to the front door, threw the front door open, stepped out on the front porch, and three Marines get out of the van and approach the door. And they asked me if I am Cynthia Johnson Tatum. And of course, I said yes. And then the next three words, we regret to inform you. And so we have moms that are part of our organization whose children have died, as mine had. He was active duty military. I'm sorry, my dog is barking, so let me let him out the door. He usually sits in my office with me. His name is Linus, and he is a 70-pound basset hound. So if you can imagine, he is quite the item. And so anyway, we have moms who are KIA moms. Their child died in combat. We have moms whose children have died in military training accidents. And we have moms whose children have died as a direct result of their military service. Many of our moms who join our organization whose children have died as the direct result of military service, many of those, their child died by suicide. And so as an organization, 3 years ago, we decided that what we would do is we would focus on what we considered to be one of those areas that if any of those are preventable, that the suicide prevention would be one of those. And so that has been a focus area for our organization. For the last 3 years, we have held a walkathon in Washington, D.C. As part of our Gold Star Mothers Sunday events, and invited anyone who wished to participate in that walkathon to help raise funds for various organizations that we support who work for in the capacity of trying to assist soldiers who suffer from PTSD. So, and that's kind of it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I would be delighted. I can tell you that we are, I think, as a group, these women are some of the strongest people that I've ever met in my life. We try to continue the service that our children started. And we find great healing not only in our ability to be around one another, but also to have the opportunity to serve our military communities and our local communities. And I see you sitting over there with your uniform on. Thank you for your service.
When a family,
Thank you.
when a family suffers a loss, is your organization notified, or do you have to seek them out? How does that happen that you're able to go engage and help a family in their time of need?
Yes. Good question. The SOS, Survivor Outreach Services, is an organization that is a part of the Department of the Army, or they are DoD, Department of the Army. And generally, they are notified that there has been a loss that is within their area if they are a part of um, any of the major branches. And so the one thing about survivor outreach services is that they then will hold events from time to time for all of the Gold Star families in an area. For example, we frequently have had the SOS coordinator for West Tennessee work with either the Redbirds or the Jackson Generals and secure seating, and then all of the Gold Star family members can go, and we usually sit in an area, and it's an opportunity for us to meet. I, as national president, received a list from the Department of Defense, um, and I handwrite a letter um, extending our sympathies to the mother of that fallen hero. What I do not solicit um, membership from those letters because, as a matter of fact, this morning I just recently downloaded the list that I received that are the casualties for April the 15th through the 30th. And so I generally will give them a few weeks, at which time I sit down and write them a letter and let them know that if they should ever need us for anything, it has one of my cards in it with my personal contact information, and they can certainly reach out to me. And if there's anything that they need that we can help them or assist them with, then we do.
Let's go to Drew. He has a question.
Okay, Drew.
I'm not sure if I'm going to get through this too well, but how are you doing personally? I've got a lot of Gold Star families, but they give so much, and I say we, with all of our own healing, give so much because I think that helps us. But
Yes.
how are you doing personally with this struggle?
Yes. I think, it's I'm not going to say that it's always easy. It was a year and a half after I had become a Gold Star mother that who ultimately turned out to be one of the best friends that I have was the chapter president for this area. And when she had seen my son's funeral and whatnot, and had read about my son in the paper, she began to reach out to me and say, "We've got this organization of moms." And I kept thinking to myself, especially at first, it's hard enough for me to even get up and put my clothes on in the morning. What are you talking about, this group of moms that are all in the same shape I am? For crying out loud, I can't imagine 15 or 20 of us getting together. And she continued to ask me for about a year and a half. And finally, I told my husband one day, I said, "Holy cow, this woman is not going to stop bothering me until I go to a meeting. I have to go to a meeting because that way maybe she'll just, you know." And I went to that first meeting, and immediately I said to myself, this is so much bigger than me. This is what I have to do. I have to be able to give back. And I'll tell you, Drew, each time that I'm able to participate in anything that will assist our veterans, our active duty military, I always hear that voice saying, "Hey, Mom, that's pretty good. What are you going to do next?" And I think it's that mission of service that has helped me to heal. And of course, I think anyone will tell you that has experienced a loss like this. I think a loss of a child, anyone will tell you that for a parent, that's not the way it's supposed to be. You are not supposed to bury your children. And so that doesn't mean there are not still hard days, but there's kind of this built-in, hey, we got your six within this organization. And I know when Daniel's birthday comes around that they're going to reach out and they're going to say, hey, girlfriend, I know times are tough right now and you're having a difficult time and you're struggling and the struggle is real. When his anniversary comes around, it's the same thing. You know, we have that ability that I was telling somebody the other day, I said, to me, I can walk in to that group of women anytime and they understand why I wear my child's dog tags. I don't have to explain it. I don't have to explain what a Gold Star mom is because they already know. We've all experienced that same loss. So, anybody else
A
have a
little bit
question?
about the work you're doing on veteran suicide. We got some folks here that are very involved in that. Tony Hoffman that you see on here, he takes a team and runs a marathon to raise money.
Yay.
Mike Kinney leads a group called Warriors Ascent.
Yay.
Has a healing academy for veterans. So we got some people that spend a lot of time in that area.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things you guys are doing?
Well, we actually, with the walkathon, for the last several years, we have been working with various organizations from chapter levels. We have an organization, for example, who they carry veterans fishing. It's a group of men who decided, hey, I've not experienced this loss. You know, we can reach out to these guys. We can start that camaraderie with some of these who have served, and maybe we can notice the kind of those of you who work in this area know what I mean. When you start to notice those things about that individual, that it automatically elevates, you know, your mindset to, are you suicidal? And you know, that seems to be the big stigma, is that people don't want to ask the question. And you know, one of the things that we do is we promote those types of interventions. We assist organizations. We've been working for the last 3 years with an organization here in Tennessee that they are provide service dogs for veterans with disabilities, not just PTSD, but also who may have lost a limb or who may be in a wheelchair, or you know, they may have served actually in Vietnam. They may have served in Korea. And what they found is that they bring these soldiers together during these events, and it's a healing process for many of those soldiers, male and female, who come to have that camaraderie. I think to have others who will listen to their stories, who understand the nightmares, who understand those kinds of things. And so we have, as a matter of fact, this year, we launched a national campaign to assist in building a kitchen at that facility so that when veterans are there serving, there's not a Gold Star mother anywhere who would not give every penny she's got to cook their child's favorite meal for them one more time. To just, if it was Daniel's roast beef and carrots and potatoes, and I could serve that, that would be something. And so for the moms, we figured that as being something that we could do, would be to help build something that could facilitate that. And it would also give an area for the veterans to have the opportunity to sit down and share a meal with one another, to socialize with one another. We have given to an organization that is right here in the state of Tennessee, also in Nashville area, that they do programs and have been doing some great works with veterans who struggle with this mindset of, hey, I can't live on the outside world because, in some cases, and those of you who've done this know, it's they can't be around their wife and children. They can't get back into society. And that program focuses more on bringing those individuals in and saying, okay, let's kind of feed the whole soldier here and kind of work through some of those things. Like I said, we view that as something that it's the preventable death. If we can reach them, if we can support organizations who are doing those good works, then those are the kinds of things that we like to support. When we see that their success numbers are high, when we see that they are indeed serving the veteran, and we all know, of course, of those organizations who say they're supporting the veteran, but they're truly not. As a matter of fact, our organization, our National Executive Board, is an all volunteer board. So we try to focus our mission on those things that you're seeing results. You're seeing good things come from what you're doing, and positive things for our veterans. So I'd love for y'all to contact me, you folks that are doing this good work. Shoot me an email.
Yeah, I'll get your guys' emails together so you can talk
Absolutely.
about opportunities. You talked a little bit about businesses partnering with you.
Yes. Yes.
How do businesses and organizations partner? What kind of opportunities are there to work together
Mm-hmm.
and do work?
Yes. As a matter of fact, our national convention this year is the end of June, and it will be held in Memphis, Tennessee. Last year, of course, we could not meet because of COVID, and our ability to connect, I think, on a personal basis, face to face, with our veterans and with each other, is so key to this organization. I kind of laughed because when we put out the info on this convention, I said, look, ladies, you got to bring your face mask. If you've had both of your shots, bring your shot record. It's like a dog. Bring your shot record with you, to convention. We'll seat all of you who've had both vaccines at one table, But we have had several organizations that are right here in the state of Tennessee, who have been very supportive in helping to bring our moms together. We have um, connected with an organization that is in Memphis. We are doing what they call a cheer bag that goes. They provide those to children's hospitals, to VA hospitals across the country. And so I found out about this organization and I said, what a great service project that would be for our uh, convention, where all the moms could pack a bag that we would send to the Memphis VA. And so anyway, I was contacted by a gentleman, from Memphis, and he said, "I understand you're trying to do something for the Memphis VA," and I said, "Yes." I said, "I'd love for our moms to be able to pack up each one to be able to write a note and pack a bag for a veteran, a little duffel bag that has blankets and cups and you know um, personal hygiene things and things like that." I said, the only problem is, I said, it's going to cost us about $8,500 to do that. And so, anyway, I sent him an email after we communicated. He said, "Cindy, don't worry about it." He said, "You'll have the bags." And so I emailed him back and I said, "John, I I really feel bad." I said, "If you know of anybody else that might help us out," I said, "there are 284 veterans at the Memphis VA facility." I said, "Not just the 85 that we would be providing a bag for." And I said, "I don't know how you would choose. It just went against every grain in my body." And so I went down and met with him on Monday of this week. And he and a few people from the Memphis area. And he looked at me and he said, "Cindy," he said, "I want to know what you need." He said, "Because the business owners in the city of Memphis are going to support whatever you need for these Gold Star moms." And I said, "Can I tell you the biggest thing on my list right now?" And he said, "Give it to me." And I said, "I need 284 cheer bags for the Memphis VA hospital." And he looked at me and he said, "Cindy, it's not a problem. It's done. Today, it's done." And so we have opportunities like that just kind of fall in our lap, that allow us the opportunity to do something on a large scale. Because I could not think, after we had arranged to have the initial number of bags that we were going to be able to pack, all I could think of was, if that was my son Nick, who served in the military, or if that was my son Daniel, who didn't receive a bag. And so we had to do for all. We had to do for all. And so we have connections like that take place. I would just say to you, I saw a question just come up. How do you start a conversation with a Gold Star mom? "Hi, Tony. My name is Cindy Tatum. And you are?" That's how you start a conversation with a Gold Star mom. You walk up to them and you say, "My name is Tony. It's nice to meet you. I understand your sacrifice. What can we do to work with your organization? What kind of things do you have going on that we can volunteer and help you with?" You know, those are the kinds of things. Um, it's just understanding. Any other questions? I've not looked in the chat, so Randall, if you're
Sure.
checking out the chat, I
Yeah,
hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the events that you were doing pre-COVID stopped last year, but
Yes.
you are starting to get some of your traveling displays back out
Oh,
again
yes.
this year, right? Okay.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we have had some of our departments and our chapters are now meeting in person. They are socially distancing. They are elbow bumping, fist bumping, air hugging, and all of that kind of thing, just to ensure that we can remain within those safety protocols that have been established. And so that was really kind of a big thing. Of course, with us moving forward with the national convention, is how would we be able to do that? And so I've just made it very clear. It's kind of funny when you say, bring your shot record, but it's serious. Bring your shot record because, hey, that's gonna gain you 2 more seats at your banquet table if you all have that a vaccine record with you when you come, you know. And certainly we want to be safe for our members. We want to be safe. Um, and so, it's one of those things. And we look forward to that because I think we have a mom, and if she knew I was talking about her, she probably would say, hush, Cindy. Um, Her son was Bruce Carter. He was a Medal of Honor recipient. He died in the Vietnam War. Georgie Carter Krell, is a past national president of our national organization in 2002 and in 2009. One of the few who have actually served 2 terms as a national president. And they named the hospital, the VA hospital in Miami, after her son. And so back in October of last year, Georgie contacted me and she said, hey, Cindy, it's finally going to happen. And I knew what she meant. She meant that they were finally going to reinter her son at Arlington National Cemetery. And so she invited me, and I said, Georgie, I said, I wouldn't do it for anybody other than you. Georgie is almost 90. Well, Georgie is 90, but she likes to say I'm in my 70s, and she looks like she's in her 70s. Volunteers over 1,000 hours a year at the Miami VA hospital. A woman in her 90s. And so you can imagine when that was taken away from her due to COVID, and all of a sudden we can't have that one-on-one with our veterans. But we have to, instead of going in the VA hospital, we can only drive up to the delivery point and somebody will come and get the coats that we've bought for the homeless vets who do receive care at that VA facility. But there's something about our moms being able to sit down and look that veteran in the face and say, we're here for you. I'm not sure who receives the greatest benefit from that, whether it's the veteran or whether it's the mom. My guess is it's the mom. The veterans look forward to us coming, but we are the ones who always gain more. I will tell you, we have a Harley Davidson dealership that has worked with our chapter here in West Tennessee for the last 9 years. They are the reason that we were able to put a set of tires on that veteran's vehicle, that we're able to pay that rent, because they have allowed us to hold what they call a passport ride every summer. Gold Star moms go up to the store and we sit there and we talk about what a Gold Star mother is And we encourage those folks to, hey, get a passport, take a ride, support this mission that we have to help our military community. And we've been blessed that after the first year, they said, well, y'all are coming back this summer, aren't you? And we were like, sure. The first year that we did this, we raised $25,000 for the Fisher House that they built in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So it can be done. My small mind thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could raise $5,000 for the Fisher House? So you can imagine the day that we were able to present that check to the Fisher House. There was just nothing better in the world than to know that we were helping families who needed to be able to be with their loved one when they were receiving medical treatment. So.
Well, we talk on here all the time about finding a sense of purpose in your business, your organization. You've found your purpose.
Yes.
And you're doing incredible work. And so keep that up. I don't have any doubt that over the course of a year, you look back and can see the impact you've had on countless families.
And that's when you feel that little, hug around the neck, little pat on the shoulder that says, okay, Mom, what's next? There's always going to be something that's next, because Daniel will always say, and my belief is I can't do for Daniel, but I can do for others. And if Daniel were still here as his mother, I would still be doing for him. But I believe that he smiles each time that we are able to do something that assists our veterans and our military community. And I think that's the greater blessing. You have to be, you kind of have to be careful sometimes when you launch out on that kind of a purpose-driven life, maybe. Let me borrow that. You have to be kind of careful sometimes when you launch out on one of those, because I think for the most part, most of the time, if you're not careful, you always receive the bigger blessing. And so anyway.
Well, I know you're blessing others, and we'll be watching for you to continue and see what's next. I know there will be more for you to do.
Well, I appreciate all of you, and I'm sure the many acts of service that you do on behalf of your communities. It takes all of us. It takes all of us. And Randall, I didn't get any of the emails out of the chat. So if you could make sure that if they sent me an email address, make sure that they reach out. I don't mind you sending my email address out there. And if anybody wants to contact me, absolutely feel free.
Yeah, I'll do that.
We can kind of direct you maybe if you wish to join up with a Gold Star chapter, perhaps. We can get that information, to them that, hey, contact this person because they'd like to volunteer. So, or you can go to our national website, American Gold Star Mothers.org, and there's a place right there where you can click and it'll say, hey, I'd like to volunteer. How do I do that? So, but I thank you.
Thanks
thank
for
you for
joining us.
having me.
Yeah, good luck with your convention. Let's hope everybody stays healthy and that's able to go off as planned.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you,
Well, thanks,
everyone.
Cindy,
It's
and
been a
everybody have a great
pleasure.
weekend.
My pleasure, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.